Long before the first spellbook was ever written, before enchanted forests stretched across the land, before the floating islands found their place amongst the clouds, there was said to be a single library, a place where knowledge was never locked away, only protected, waiting patiently for those willing to seek it, not for power, not for glory, but for understanding. Many travellers have searched for it, most returned, believing it was nothing more than a legend. Some claimed they caught a glimpse of glowing towers disappearing into the mist. Others spoke of floating lanterns dancing high above the clouds, guiding them towards a place that vanished with the morning sun. Perhaps they were only stories, or perhaps the greatest mysteries only reveal themselves to those who stop searching for them. Today, our journey takes us here, high above the world below, where the wind carries whispers instead of echoes, and every cloud feels close enough to touch. Rests a quiet island unlike any other. Suspended between the earth and the sky stands an ancient library, a place untouched by time, untouched by haste, untouched by everything except curiosity. At first glance, it feels impossibly peaceful. Stone walls standing strong after centuries of silent watch, towering bookshelves reaching towards the vaulted ceilings, soft, golden glowing lanterns swaying gently from wooden beams, vines climbing carefully around the ancient windows, as though even nature understands that this place deserves to be protected. There is no rush here, no loud voices, no hurried footsteps, only the gentle turning of pages, the distant crackle of a fireplace, and the quiet promise that somewhere amongst these shelves there is always something new to discover. As the great wooden doors open, a warm glow spills across the floor. Dust dances through beams of sunlight, floating lazily through the air like tiny fragments of forgotten memories. Every shelf stretches further than the eye can follow. Every staircase leads somewhere unseen. Every corridor seems to hide another secret, waiting patiently to be found. Some books are older than kingdoms, their leather covers, worn smooth by countless hands, their pages carrying knowledge passed from one generation to the next. Others appear almost untouched, as though they've been waiting, not for anyone, but for the right person. Perhaps every book chooses its reader, rather than the other way around. It is said that no one has ever read any book within these walls. Not because there isn't enough time to read them all, but because this library is always growing. Every story ever told, every discovery ever made, every dream written down, every lesson learned, somehow they magically find their way here, each becoming another page to an endless collection of human imagination. But despite all the extraordinary magic surrounding us, the greatest wonder isn't found inside the spellbooks. It isn't hidden within the enchanted scrolls, or locked away beneath the ancient staircases. The greatest wonder to knowledge itself is knowledge, because Knowledge has always been its own kind of magic. It turns questions into understanding, fear into confidence, strangers into teachers, and ideas into worlds. Perhaps that's why libraries have always felt magical, not because of what they contain, but because of what they awaken inside of us. Curiosity, hope, wonder, the quiet excitement of knowing that somewhere on a page we haven't turned yet, something extraordinary is waiting to be discovered. As you take your first steps between those endless shelves, one thought quietly settles into your mind. Every book surrounding you began the exact same way, with a single idea, a single sentence, a single person, brave enough to believe that their story was worth telling. And perhaps that is where every great adventure truly begins. Not with magic, not with castles, not even with spells, but with courage. The courage to turn the very first page. As you venture deeper into the library, the silence begins to change, not into noise, but into something softer. The gentle rustling of turning pages, the distant creak of ancient timber, the faint hum of enchanted lanterns, glowing as they have done for countless generations. It feels as though the library is breathing, not alive in the way we understand life, but awake, watching, remembering. So the shelves stretch higher than before, so high, in fact, that they disappear into the shadows above. Thousands upon thousands of books rest patiently in their places, some no longer than the palm of your hand, others so vast they require two people to lift them from their shelves. Every spine is different. Some shimmer with enchanted runes. Others are wrapped in worn leather, faded by centuries of careful hands. A few appear completely blank, revealing nothing about the stories hidden inside. It's said that every spell discovered can be found somewhere within these walls. Spells to shape the wind, to guide the stars, to help forests bloom, to call rain after seasons of drought. But the oldest librarians always believed those weren't the most valuable books, because magic can change the world around us. Stories have the power to change the world within us. As you wander the shelves, you begin to realize that this library was never built to collect spells alone. It was built to preserve memories. Every journey ever recorded, every lesson somehow was worth passing on. Every mistake that became wisdom, every dream that inspired another dream. Nothing here was considered too small to matter. Imagine, just for a moment, how many lives are resting quietly upon these shelves, how many hopes, how many fears, and how many difficult days, all captured within simple pages. Each book is a reminder that someone lived, someone learned, someone chose to leave a piece of them behind, so that another person might one day find comfort in their world. Perhaps that's why libraries feel so different from anywhere else. They remind us that no matter what we're facing, someone, somewhere, has walked a similar path before. Someone has asked the same questions, felt the same uncertainty, wondered if things would ever become easier, and somehow they found the strength to keep turning the page. There's something deeply comforting about that, to know that we are never truly alone in our experiences, even when it feels like no one could possibly understand. There are stories filled with people who once stood exactly where we stand today. Different names, different places, different times, but the same hopes, the same worries, and the same search for meaning. Near the centre of the hall, one shelf catches your attention. Unlike every other bookcase, this one holds only a handful of books. No jewels to decorate their covers, no golden lettering to mark their titles. They appear surprisingly ordinary, almost forgotten. The old caretakers believed these were the most precious books in the entire library, not because they contained the greatest spells, but because they contained the greatest truths. Simple stories, ordinary people, acts of kindness, moments of courage, quiet victories that changed lives in ways that no magic ever could. Sometimes we spend so much time searching for extraordinary moments that we overlook the extraordinary hidden inside ordinary days. A conversation that arrived exactly when it was needed, a stranger's kindness, a friend who stayed a little bit longer, a quiet evening that allowed our thoughts to settle. These moments rarely make history, yet they often shape our lives more than we realize. Perhaps that's the library's greatest lesson, that every story has value, not only the tales of heroes or powerful mages or great adventures across distant kingdoms, but every story, every life, every chapter, including our own, because somewhere, if such a library truly existed, there would be a place waiting for your story too. Not because you've lived a perfect life, but because of your experiences, your kindness, your resilience, and the lessons you have learned. They may one day become exactly the story that somebody else needs to read. And as you leave the hall of endless stories, the row of books fades gently behind you, yet one thought lingers just a little longer. Perhaps the greatest magic was never written inside the spell books at all. Perhaps it has always lived inside the people brave enough to write their own story. Beyond the hall of endless stories, the library grows quieter still. The grand bookshelves begin to narrow. The lanterns burn a little softer. Even your footsteps seem to fade, as though this part of the library asks every visitor to enter with gentle respect. Few travellers ever reach this place, not because the path is hidden, but because many never realize they exist. Tucked behind winding shelves and ancient staircases, there lies a chamber only known as the Whispering Archives. Unlike the rest of the library, these books are never truly silent. No voices echo from their pages, no words leap into the air, but instead they whisper memories, not loudly enough to understand every sentence, but loud enough to remind you that every book was once somebody's life. If you stand quietly, you might almost hear them, the laughter of old friends, The excitement of new discoveries, the gentle turning of pages on quiet evenings beside the fire, moments of courage, moments of doubt, moments when someone believed they couldn't continue, only to discover that they were stronger than they ever imagined. The Whispers don't tell complete stories. They leave space for your imagination. After all, the most meaningful stories are never simply read. They're felt. Some books glow faintly as you pass. Others remain peacefully asleep upon their shelves. The librarians once believed that books awaken only when someone truly needs the wisdom hidden inside of them, not when curiosity demands it, but when the heart is ready to understand it. Perhaps people aren't so different. Sometimes we hear advice, and it means very little. Then months, or even years later, someone says those exact same words again, and suddenly everything makes sense. Not because the words changed, but because we did. The library has always understood something that life quietly teaches us. There's a season for every lesson. Some truths arrive early, others can only be understood after experience has prepared us to receive them. Wisdom cannot be hurried. It arrives exactly when we're ready to listen. As you continue through the archives, one small book rests alone upon a wooden pedestal. Unlike every other book, it has no title, no decoration, no lock, only blank parchment bound within a weathered cover. At first, it appears unfinished, until you notice something remarkable. Slowly, words begin appearing across the page, not written by an unseen hand, but forming as though the book itself is remembering something. The old caretakers told a curious story about this book. They believed it never recorded the lives of kings, great wizards, or legendary heroes. Instead, it quietly filled its pages with moments of kindness, a stranger offering help without being asked, a friend choosing to stay when somebody needed company, an apology that healed an old wound, the courage to ask for help, the decision to keep going, even on the hardest day. To the outside world, those moments might seem small, but within these walls, they were considered the strongest magic ever witnessed. Because while spells may change the world for just a moment, kindness has the power to change a person's life forever. Perhaps that's why this book has never reached its final page. Every single day, somewhere in the world, someone chooses compassion over anger, hope over fear, understanding over judgment, and every time they do, another page quietly writes itself. Imagine that for a moment, a story that never ends, because goodness never truly disappears. It simply waits for ordinary people to do extraordinary things. As you gently close the book, the whispers around the room seem a little clearer than before, not because they've grown louder, but because you've begun to understand them. Every shelf, every page, every forgotten story exists for one simple reason: to remind us that no life is ever measured only by its greatest achievements. Sometimes the chapters remembered the longest are the ones filled with kindness. And with that thought resting quietly in your mind, you leave the Whispering Archives behind, carrying no spellbook in your hands, yet somehow feeling as though you've learnt the most powerful lesson in the entire library. Leaving the Whispering Archives behind, the corridors begin to change once again. The warm glow of lanterns grows softer. The towering shelves slowly give way to walls of polished stone. Ancient ruins are carved into every archway, their gentle light pulsing like a quiet heartbeat. It feels as though you've crossed into a place few have ever seen, a place where the oldest secrets of the library have rested for centuries. At the end of the corridor, a single doorway stands before you, simple in appearance, yet unlike any other in the library. There are no locks, no heavy chains, no guards standing watch, only an old wooden door, marked with a single symbol, an open book, surrounded by stars. The librarians believe that this door never opened through force. It only opened through intention. Those seeking power would find nothing beyond it, but those searching for understanding would always be welcomed inside. As the door slowly opens, the vast circular chamber reveals itself. Shelves curve endlessly around the walls, reaching towards a domed ceiling where enchanted constellations drift slowly overhead. Thousands of spellbooks rest quietly upon their shelves. Some glow with a gentle blue light. Others shimmer with colours that seem impossible to describe. Every book carries its own presence, as though each one remembers the hand that first wrote within its pages. At first, it's easy to believe these books would hold unimaginable power, spells to command the wind, to calm the sea, to shape mountains, to light the darkest skies. Perhaps some of them do, but the old caretakers always smiled at those who believed this was the library's greatest treasure, because they knew something else. Magic has never been measured by how much power we possess. It's been measured by how we choose to use it. Imagine holding a spell capable of changing the world. Would you use it for yourself or for someone else? Would you seek recognition or simply leave the world a little kinder than you found it? Perhaps those questions have always mattered more than the spell itself. As you continue throughout the vault, your attention is drawn to a single pedestal standing quietly at its centre. Unlike the others, it holds only one book, smaller than expected, bound in worn leather, its edges softened by time. There are no jewels decorating its cover, no glowing symbols, only a simple title, written in faded silver letters. The first spell. Legend tells us this was the first spell that was never written, but the first spell truly understood. Many believed it contained extraordinary magic, the ability to reshape kingdoms, to bend time itself. But when the book was finally opened, its pages revealed something entirely unexpected. There was no great incantation, no secret formula, just a simple sentence. The greatest magic begins with the choices we make when no one is watching. For generations, scholars searched for a deeper meaning. Surely, such an ancient book must contain more hidden pages, invisible ink, forgotten enchantments, yet nothing was ever found. Perhaps that single sentence was the spell all along. Every day, we cast invisible spells without ever realizing it. A kind word that eases someone's worries, an encouraging message sent at exactly the right moment, the patience to listen instead of rushing to speak, the courage to ask for help when life feels too heavy. These moments rarely feel extraordinary, yet they have the power to change somebody's day, and sometimes their life. The library has always understood that true magic doesn't announce itself with flashes of light or thunder. More often, it appears quietly, in compassion, in forgiveness, in hope. It grows through the choices that we make again and again, until those choices become part of who we are. As you gently close the first spell, the chamber falls silent once more. The countless books surrounding you remain exactly where they have always been, patiently waiting for the next traveller to arrive, not to learn how to become powerful, but to discover something far more valuable, how to become wise. And as you leave the spellbook vault behind, one final thought follows you through that doorway. Perhaps the strongest magic in any world isn't found within enchanted books, but within ordinary people choosing every single day to make the world a little brighter than they found it. As you make your way back through the quiet halls, the library feels different now, not because it has changed, but because you have. The shelves remain endless, the lanterns continue their gentle glow. The ancient spellbook waits patiently for the next curious traveller to wander through these doors, as they always have and they always will. Perhaps that's the true beauty of places like this. They never ask us to stay forever, only long enough to leave with something meaningful, a new idea, a different perspective, or simply a moment of peace that we can carry back into the world beyond these floating islands. Every room we've explored, every story we've uncovered, and every page we've imagined has quietly reminded us of something surprisingly simple. The greatest magic has never been about casting spells. It has always been about what we choose to do with the lives we have been given, the kindness we show, the hope we hold on to, the curiosity that keeps us learning, and the courage to keep turning the page. Even when we don't yet know how the next chapter will unfold, as the great wooden doorways slowly close behind you, the library disappears once more into the clouds, not lost, not forgotten, simply waiting, waiting for another dreamer, another explorer, another storyteller to discover its halls when the time is right. Perhaps one day, when you least expect it, you'll find your way back here again, because the best stories are never truly finished. They simply wait for the next chapter to be written. May your next chapter be a bright one. Until next time.